Hey,
Hello, hey, good morning again.
I find that this countdown timer of this program makes something with me. It's
Yeah,
excitement is boosting. Six, five, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Hey, here we are.
yeah, we are again. Hello, hello.
What what's the topic?
Today's topic is about a bit triggered by my Taylorism post of this week on servant leadership and the connection between management and let's call it the work floor. Is the chasm, the distance that often exists in today's organizations.
Hmm.
Between, let's call it, management leadership and the people,
Employee worker,
employee work,
maybe?
let's call it employee work.
Mm,
Yeah, I
mm.
don't know how to find the right term, but let's the people doing the work and the people managing, something like that. And the distance between those two, and the higher you go up in an organization, like the bigger that distance becomes. Is that a good recap of it,
Yes,
Magnus?
I love that distinction. I would like to start unpack it like, it's not like a dichotomy that you will have, some type of modern agile organization says that you will have no managers. That's like an extreme probably, or maybe it's very like it makes total sense. So what are we saying? We're saying that a lot of management are done by the workers themselves because the work is so complex and they're so highly educated. And we should do a separate episode why we want to go down that route in the modern world. But that's like one end of a spectra. Another is maybe mass production. The let's there's some degree of repetibility, so we're doing the same over again, and there's some term, relative speaking, at least, we could say that there is. It makes sense to divide. A manager could imagine to own the process, and workers could be working in the process, and we could divide that work that way.
Mhm.
And there's a scale, but regardless of that scale, there is still a chasm. In my experience, it's like we've gone wildly wrong, even in the so-called agile revolution. There's no restoration of the collaboration between managers and workers, or managers and employees. It's a great drift. No one understands, and as humans, our natural ability to collaborate is lost.
Yeah. What triggers me now is how come that this happens, right?
Mm,
It makes me think. I read just before our before we started our recording. I read this post from Kyle Rita on LinkedIn this morning, where he speaks about good software development practices and building in quality, and how it is difficult to bring that change into a team when they're not used to it, and that he brings it in as an agile technical coach, but that
mm,
my interpretation of his post is that he kind of sees it as the management or director tasks to support the team in becoming better at it. But in the current organizations, management leaders, directors are very often in that political space in the organization, dealing with all kinds of other tensions that creates that disconnect with, yeah, the true value of the work that's happening. And what, yeah, the question that I have is how come? Like, what creates this, yeah, this kind of distance, this separation between those two? Whereas the idea is that, like, in lean management, we have the principle of go to the Gemba, right? Is go see on the
mm,
work floor, connect
mm.
connect with what's happening, and connect with the people doing the work, because that's where you will truly understand what's happening, what's going wrong, where the value is and where the value not is. So why are we not doing that? It's, yeah.
Oh, uh, yeah. 10 years ago, I took on a position as manager in an agile organization, and I actually didn't know that much about Scrum, but they were well on their ways. And long story short, I really find it resonated with me and made sense on so many levels to have, let's call it self-managed teams, self-organizing teams. They take care of a lot of decisions themselves because they are closest to the work. For some, you could label it like entrepreneurial teams or whatever. And yet, when I wanted to just as a friendly manager be there and observe or maybe connect, walking in a team room, it's like a story. A manager walks into a team room and suddenly the conversation stops. You have a problem. I remember how I found that it was difficult. It was difficult to re-engage in natural collaboration. And there's to me, I researched that a lot, and mostly from neuroscience. And things happen when we get this design that we have in current organizations. There's a lot of factors that demotes natural conversation and deep trust. And, the games we're trying to play, it's a very abstract game nowadays for many people. And so maybe we don't even have an idea what we're doing. And so then how are we going to collaborate? Because I don't really profoundly understand what is your role now then. You are a manager. Who are you? You are going to set my salary and kick me out if I'm not doing a good job, or what's your story? What's your intent? What is it that we are responsible for if we are self-managed? Is there no boundaries, or is there a boundary? And what are you responsible as a manager? And we didn't do a great transition or transformation. We never talked about it. I could get presented with very challenging, complex situations where I lacked a lot of information, and it's not. How would I be able to answer that? Your brains is as good as mine. I'm not just going to look at it and say, yeah, there you go. This is what you want to do and get it right. No way. Does it do anything for you, the way I'm reasoning now, sharing a story?
Yes, absolutely.
Does it resonate?
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to pick up on the first part of what you were saying, Magnus, because the term that I have for this is the what can we expect from each other kind of thing. Like, what's your role and what's my role? For me, that is called contracting. And it's something that we do consciously and subconsciously. If it's unclear, we fill the gaps in ourselves, right? And that's something that I learned. I learned from a great colleague I work with, Jos van Otterlo, and I know you know him as well. He invited me that when I come into these kinds of situations, because as a consultant you have it as well, right? You come in and then you have this job description, but still, like, what do I expect and what do other people expect? And he invited me, write down on an A4 page, don't make it super formal, but write down, okay, this is how I see my role and this is what I expect. And then give that back to the people you work with and ask them the same question. And when I heard you talking, I was thinking exactly the same thing. As a manager, as a leader, because maybe leader is a bigger term than manager in a way, we talked about an agile coach or a scrum master, you're a leader as well, right? You lead from that efficiency, effectiveness, value delivery perspective, what you want to call it. Make that contract with your team. Like, hey guys, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. This is how I see my role, and this is what I expect. How do you guys see that? And what is your part in that? Like, how do you see your role? What do you expect? And then bring that together. And at that point, even if it's just a conversation, because we don't have to put it on paper and put our signature under it, but when we had that conversation, that clarity is created. And when we do that regularly, it's like continuous contracting, if you want. We have that clarity, and I think there's the connection. I think that's where the connection starts to happen.
It totally makes sense. So I want to repeat that and bottom line, because there was a lot of experiential knowledge connected to sound theories of science. How do we function as human beings? The subconscious expectations or social contracts. We do a lot of subconscious social contracting according to neuroscience. We do a lot of ranking, or we're trying to figure out what's our place, what's on us, what's to them. And so what you're talking about, try to explicitly work through these subconscious social contracts, unpack them, and have a continuous exploration on what it means. And the point just being have a conversation, practice and having a conversation to explore each other's roles and expectations. And I think that now if I associate with kind of role descriptions, I think that this conversation goes the wrong way. This is not about static role descriptions trying to be documented somewhere. That's not what we're talking about, right?
Absolutely not. It's the role.
It's not this. It's not this role description versus that role description. How could it be? Our work is so complex. It's on a different level. Like it's more generic. What do you talked about a concrete tool? Just write down on this paper. Was it a good tool? Did it help? How was it used?
It was a good tool. We never ended up completing it. Like it never became an A4 that we saved somewhere, and it never became part of the documentation. But the fact that I did it, because I started the conversation with that document, I wrote it. I said, "Look, this is, and can you have a look?" And then that started the conversation. And for that, it was a tool. That was the tool, because the goal is not the document. The goal is the conversation that creates, and I like the addition, the social contracting, right? Yeah. And at a certain point, it's just, okay, this is what I understood from you. Is this correct? Yes. Okay. What did you understand from me? Not, correct or not correct. We kind of go back and forth until we both understand. We have that shared understanding, and then that first social contract is there. But that piece of paper, that it was a Word document, that started the conversation. So in that sense, it was a great tool. Yes. Yeah,
and now something emerges to me that is thank you for this. I don't know, hands up, how many have been in this crazy, let's do a lot of process and role descriptions, and you engage in some certification or whatnot that needs you to have that, and then they're just on some wiki somewhere and no one ever looks at it. Been there, done that. It does not work. And why is that? Well, we act according to habits. So it's not like you're on a football pitch. It's not like, oh, hey, stop the game. I need to go and read again the work document that we have agreed upon, so I know how I should act in this moment. We don't work that way. We need to have very active conversation and feedback loops, because these are habits that emerges from the heat of the moment. But it helps our brain if we do this like shift between, it's like an inspect and adapt of our relations.
Yes.
So is relation something that we should manage? I mean, probably. Oftentimes in modern companies, the problem we solve is like the technical problem of developing a software, let's say. So all our brain is focusing on that. But maybe we should, what if we also said that, well, actually, it's our responsibility to manage our relations, like in a cross-functional teams. If relationship is something that can be developed, that can be learned and executed, I mean, it's the conversational skills, it's the relational skills, it's listening skills. And then we augment it to manager-worker relations or manager-employee relations. How do we want to work that? What makes sense? We don't like it when you just walk into the room and gives us a new task, because it's very disruptive for the value we're creating. And we don't think actually that you know what you're talking about, because we already have all these assignments that you might not know about. What if we can have these conversations? Oh, says the manager, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't realize that. But here's my problem. I have all these responsibilities as well, and I don't know how to work that. How do we view this together? Yeah. So there you go. You're nodding. The point is not here. It's just have the conversation. there's no true answer, but have the conversation.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it this way, because that's what it's also about, the transparency and the openness, right? The vulnerability, if you want.
Yeah.
In the beginning, you said like you came into the room as a manager and people went silent, right? And that's kind of a trust issue in a sense.
It is.
And you build that trust up by opening up and by showing vulnerability and by showing that you as well, if you're in a manager position, you as well are just a human being that has a role to play in an organization that has objectives and tensions to deal with. But if you share those tensions, they are not of you anymore. They become the tensions of the team, just like the tensions of the team become part of what you do. And when you can start bringing those together, then we have it. So we titled, I know the working title of this recording, and maybe that's a good part to wrap up, is Closing the Chasm. So how do we close the chasm? It's by conversation, by connection, by opening up, and by vulnerability. I think those are 4 points that I definitely take from this one. How about you?
And maybe, and maybe this will be like a cliffhanger question: who is responsible? If it's not working, if we have the chasm, who is responsible? I'm tempted to say it's always your fault if you're a manager. And the good thing with it being your fault, it's that you can change. And in my opinion, by necessity, in any context where we have a big employer or an employer of every kind, manager hires people. And so you are responsible to boot this climate up, but you will need help. Yes. And that is, so, but it's a big topic. So maybe that's a cliffhanger. Who is responsible for closing the chasm? Because it's both ways.
Yeah, and that's the call out for all of you listening to us. So please share your thoughts with us. Let us know what you think. If you like this episode, by the way, please share it. We'd be very happy to get more feedback on what we do. And I think that's kind of a wrap for today. Magnus, what do you think? It
is, although I can share with you quite transparently, this brain is now brainstorming continuation and trajectories. Even more cliffhangers. So, but maybe you can do like a worker revolution. Is that possible? You know, Scrum teams. It's a wrap. Closing the chasm. It's a conversation we really need to bring to the arena. Managers and employees are unhappy both. Don't make this a problem where, the managers are evil. The managers are conditioned by working in these systems. And it seems to me that these systems are a function of a flawed systems thinking. It's actually not in principles of scientific management anymore. Because it's not scientific to not pay attention to how we people collaborate. So we need to talk about this.
And let's
much more.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Magnus. Thank you, everyone, and see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.